Hi, glad to see you back here. Same place, different time. Since we are going through a lot of shifts these days, I believe that to be true for you as well. I just thought about there's one thing that I'm remembered a lot of times in a lot of moments in the recent days, which is the video that I have done on the heroes and your idols. Today I want to talk about not only the importance of the idols and heroes in our lives and the magic that happens if we allow this inner child to come out and to play a little bit. But today I want to talk about more so a facet or an aspect with which you can actually feel probably a little better equipped throughout the day. So I find it to be very helpful to be able to switch on and off, especially. And what do I mean by that? By switching on and off, I mean to be fully aware of the parts that you are allowing into your life, your thoughts, your awareness. For example, in form of thinking about inspiring idols and how they would act, and then take that kind of on in your own personal situation. And at the same time to switch it off. So when necessary. And that switching on and off is something that I want to talk today. So for example, I was experiencing something where I had the need, or I was reminded myself actually, that letting my inner child lead would not be a good idea. Why do I say that? Well, going back to the start of the video where I said that we're going through a lot of transitions, there will be moments and maybe environments, people, situations, partners, whatever it might be for you, that at this time we are asked to release, or more so to focus on our own paths. That is basically what is asked of us, I believe. But at the same time, this can mean that we have to release certain things from the old chapter that doesn't serve our highest good anymore. So in order to have those conversations and in order to face those situations, it can help to have a conversation with your inner child prior to that and let them know that you're here for them, but that they would need to play somewhere. You can even visualize, for example, a place where they would feel comfortable and where you commit to them, or not to commit, it's not the right word, where you talk to them and you basically commit, both of you, your inner child and yourself, your older self, where you feel where you commit to the fact that you will pick them up later. Especially if there are situations with people that don't get you, that might not get your vision, that might not get your heart. In general, just your message, whatever that might be, at work, friends, environments, it doesn't really matter. But whenever you feel that you already know that no matter words you will use, no matter time it will take for you to talk or to explain, it won't change the situation. So in order for you to not fall into that trap, to over-explain or to get emotional on a way where it might be harmful for the relation, or maybe even for yourself to continue forward with your own path, it can be really helpful if you can have that conversation with your inner child prior to that, and let them know that from from that moment on, your older self will take the lead. Because your inner child is there with you all the time. And in situations when we are expected to be, our older selves, especially in situations where we don't get understood in whatever kind of way that might look like for you, we can feel hurt, we can feel emotional. Whereas if we manage to kind of separate those two within ourselves for that specific conversation or for that specific time frame it takes, you're actually more in a position of making the decisions you need to do at that moment. That sounds a little bit strange, maybe, if you haven't done it before, but I promise it helps. And most importantly, what I want you to do, if you're practicing that, you can start with small steps also, and having like smaller conversation and just see how it goes. But it's also really essential that after you have finished that conversation, that situation, whatever it might look like, you go back to your inner child and you call them back, and you can take them in your arms or whatever you want to do with your inner child then, and you just be there again for them and let them know, here I am and we're connecting again, and thank you for waiting for me, and all of those beautiful things that you want to share with your inner self, with your smaller little boy or little girl out there. So that is actually one thing that I wanted to share and talk about. And the other thing is that when I was doing the recording for the video of the idols and the heroes, I believe it was like 2 days after that, I had like a thought coming to my mind, very, very clear. And I knew I had left out some part of that. And that's why I wanted to involucrate that here in this video too. Because just as you can switch on and off in kind of bringing your inner child towards making adult decisions and turning it off in a way to be able to be adult, to not let Peter Pan lead the way, but more so be factual, whatever it needs to, it's asking you at the moment, at that time. Just as you can do that, you can also do the same with your idols. And I was actually shortly mentioning some of those people and that I was remembered of, like Spider-Man and mostly basically seeing from my environment what they have seen. But I haven't shared with you something that was very precious to me personally, which is, I remember that I had a calendar. And when I was a little girl, I was gifted that calendar every year. I don't remember the occasion, but it doesn't really matter. And on that calendar, there were stories of women. And there were like in every month, there was a different woman presented. And in the back of the paper, there was the biography of the woman. And then in the front, there were like phrases of that woman. And if I think about it now, I recall that Frida Kahlo, for example, the painter, she was one of those women, but also Brigitte Bardot or even like Marilyn Monroe, for example. So that kind of calendar. And when I was older, especially the one with Marilyn Monroe, there was one thing that came up actually in the years after. And I remember watching a video with Marilyn Monroe where she was, I believe it was somewhere on the streets. She was outside and she was talking to a journalist. And she was actually like very casually dressed, like nothing special, like right, like me basically right now, just nothing, wow, nothing Marilyn Monroe. I was about to say Manson, but no, nothing like her exquisite Marilyn Monroe style, no beautiful dress, just a jeans and a sweater, and yeah. And she also did not had makeup. She didn't wear any makeup on that video. And I remember that they were, I believe, I don't recall exactly, but I believe that they were outside somewhere, like walking in the streets. There were people like all around them, just walking and doing their lives. And nobody really noticed them. And while they were having that conversation, she was actually telling the person who interviewed her, I believe they knew each other because they were very familiar with each other. And she told him, I believe he was a man too, that that she actually enjoys those moments where she can be herself and not be Marilyn Monroe. And so the interviewer kind of picked that up and he said, well, it's true, you're now outside and nobody's actually noticing you. And she said, yeah, well, that's because I don't like to. So he started to get curious and he asked her, but what do you mean? And she said, there is this switch that she can use whenever she wants to. And that switch is like a button. And if she switches that, if she uses that, she becomes Marilyn Monroe. And the interviewer was like so excited, and he was asking her how that would look like and if she could do that for him so that in order for him to see. And I recall that she was in front of him and something changed. I recall that she switched the position, that she went like straighter. And she was moving her hair like a little bit backwards and closing her eyes. And all of a sudden, when she opened them, she had her look, the way in which her eyes were looking, they were bigger, they were more open. Her chest was more open, And just in that moment, people start to recognize her. And she was actually, in a moment, she was smiling to the journalist because he would see what was happening. And not only that, but he would actually have it on camera. So I found that really, really special to be seeing that, and having this great appreciation of being a time. How do you say that in English? I could see that, I could see that happening too. And of course, like all of those people around her would start to come. There was a crowd within seconds. And the journalist actually, the interview was over. Not necessarily to say, the interview was over at that stage. And that was actually in my mind for a very long time. That was one of the main reasons that I was wanting to share that story about idols and heroes with you, because I remember that being the Marilyn Monroe that she is with her feminine presence, I found that in many occasions that was kind of true for me too. And when I was really wanting to get into that mode, whatever you want to call it, because I'm not a Marilyn Monroe, but if it was kind of my mode, and if I switched into that, something happened, and the people would react to it. And just by finding that out within myself, I knew that I could always rely on that. It was always there. And it is always not only for me, inside of me, but it's also inside of you. So basically, the story and the topic for this video is not only to share my personal experience with that, but to remind you on how to switch on and off certain parts within yourself, your inner child, especially if you have adult conversations, which could and will probably harm your inner child if you let them lead. But also to switch on and off those different facets that you have as a woman, as a man, as no matter which gender, energy is fluid, where you could just become that version, that idol. And I believe the video for the idols is a good start. If that sounds like something that is new to you and you want to practice a little bit more, that can be a great start. Because going back to our childhood memories and remembering what our idols were, you get that magical feeling. But if you already knew that to be true for you, you can think about when was the last time you switched? When was the last time you touched that button and you became the person you wanted to be in that moment? So feel free to experiment a little bit with the different aspects within yourselves. And I guess that was the message for today. I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to see you in the next one.